We are Southeastern 16, talking some Tennessee football today with the radio voice of the Tennessee Volunteers. That is Bob Kesling, and we'll get into some football, and we'll talk about an announcement you've made as of late, Bob. But first of all, just appreciate you coming on and talking with us today.
Sure, good to talk to you again, Chase.
So it has come out in the last couple of weeks. You've made, I'm sure, what was the tough decision that you'll be retiring as the voice of the Volunteers after basketball season. Then you'll still be doing finish out football and do basketball. But kind of take us through that decision. And this is something you've been doing for a long time. Yeah. So kind of take us through kind of what led to that and then making that decision.
Well, I've been doing this for 26 years, and then I was doing Jefferson Pilot, which is what now the SEC network is, 10 years before that on television. And so I about 5 years ago, the university and the Vol Network, we'd sit down at the end of every basketball season and say, well, how do you feel? You want to keep going? I said, yeah. So, but I'll turn 71 here in December. So, it's getting that time where you got to make that decision. And so, but the last 5 years, every year we'd sit down. Yeah, I want to go again. I still feel good. Okay. Well, this year it was kind of a little bit different. The university kind of said, we don't want you just to drop the mic at the end of the basketball season and leave us unprepared. So we need to have a plan about what you want to do and how long you think you can do this. And I just didn't think I could commit to 3 or 5 more years. I just didn't think that was going to work out. So we just decided this would be a good time. And, I was talking with my wife, since 1974, I've been on the road every weekend covering SEC football, Tennessee, or whatever, basketball. I mean, either an SEC game or a Tennessee game every weekend since 1974. And that's a lot of time away from your family. And I missed a lot with my kids, my 2 girls. And now I'm starting to miss a lot with my grandsons. I mean, I didn't get to see a single one of their football games. They're playing Pee Wee football, but I didn't get a chance to see a single one of their games this fall. And I want to quit doing that. I want to start being a full-time granddad. So it just seemed right. And it's, I think it's the correct decision. I'll miss it. I mean, how can you not miss doing games at Neyland Stadium and going around to these different venues and doing games? And so I'll miss that aspect of it, but I won't miss the travel, and I won't miss the long hours and getting home from Oklahoma at 4 a.m. and that kind of stuff. I won't miss that, but there'll be a lot of stuff about game days. If I could just do home games, and every game was played at Neyland Stadium, all 12 games is played at Neyland Stadium, that would be ideal, but that's not the way it works. You got to do road games, and those get tougher and tougher as you get older.
And I know we could sit here for an hour and talk about how much college football has changed in the time that you've been a radio voice, but just kind of talking 26 years as the voice of the Vols, and just kind of talk about how you've seen and even just Tennessee, progress, especially the last few years and the great seasons, but just kind of the SEC as a whole. Like you've seen so many different coaches, you've seen so many different teams be on high levels and all that. Just talk about kind of in your time as the voice of the Vols, how you've kind of seen not only Tennessee, but the SEC progress.
Well, I was doing Jefferson Pilot when they had the first expansion back in '92, and everybody thought, well, this is not going to work, and how you bring in South Carolina in, and how's this going to do? And then I remember, back when I was in school and I played freshman football at Tennessee, we were playing 6 conference games back in those days. And when they decided to go to 7, it was, this will never work. It's too grueling of a schedule. And then they went to 8. It was, oh my goodness, the players will never survive an 8-game grueling schedule. And now we got this college football playoffs, so the only thing about it, it's constant change, and you just adapt to it. The NIL has changed things. The transfer portal has certainly changed things, and the college football playoff. It's interesting. Last night I was talking with Coach Heupel, and we were discussing, in previous years by November, you already know who is going to be playing in the SEC championship game, and then you're worried about where you're going to a bowl game. Well, now hardly anybody's talking about the SEC championship game. Everybody's talking about getting into the playoffs and how you got to do and what's going to happen, and can you drive your own path, or do you have to have some help from somebody else? So the playoff is totally dominated, I think, these conference championship games. And though these conference championship games are really going to play a big part in who gets to the playoffs. I mean, if you're a 2-loss team and you lose your conference championship game and you dropped to 3 losses, so you're not being rewarded for getting to the championship game. You're getting penalized for losing that game, and that might knock you out of the playoffs. And so that's going to be really interesting to see how the committee judges these conference championship games, and if it knocks you out of a chance to get to the playoffs because you lose that conference championship game. So, but those are the biggest changes, and it's just I remember I tell people all the time that when everybody thought when they went to plastic helmets that was going to change the game, make guys soft, and then they put the forward pass in, and then they did scholarships back in the 50s. Well, that's going to ruin college football, all these guys on scholarship. And then Title IX comes along, and well, that's all the money from the football is going to go to women's sports, and that's going to destroy everything. Well, college football has survived all of that and is still thriving, and college football will still survive pretty much any kind of curveball that's thrown their way by the NCAA or by the courts or by anything, because it's just too popular. People just love it, and people are going to demand that their college football team is out there playing every Saturday, and that'll keep going forever.
We are Southeastern 16, presented to you by Bet Online. They are the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to Bet Online today to get out on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. Yeah. And fans are going to buy tickets and be in the stands. And I know you have a great example of that in Neyland Stadium, because that is one of the best, atmospheres in college football with the Tennessee fans. And I want to kind of transition into this year's team. And obviously Saturday didn't go how Tennessee wanted it to, in front of what I heard was a crazy environment there in Georgia. But just talk about kind of some things that maybe Tennessee's taken away from that loss to Georgia. You got UTEP this week, an important game with Vanderbilt to end the season, and then whatever happens after that, who knows? But kind of talk about some takeaways from that Georgia game they're looking to build on.
Well, it's been kind of a mystery with this offense. They had 3 games where they didn't score in the first half, which is very unlike a Josh Heupel team, and then against Georgia, didn't score in the second half, which is very much unlike a Josh Heupel team. The offense has just been a tick off all season, and the passing game just hasn't had the big chunk plays. Dylan Sampson has been a lifesaver, though. Without Dylan Sampson, I don't know where this Tennessee team would be. They're balanced, though. It's amazing. Everybody's talking about they're running the ball all the time. Well, they're actually, I think the number is they run the ball for 226 yards a game, and they throw it for 229 yards a game. That's pretty balanced. And but they're not putting up those 300 and 400-yard games passing that we're used to, and those 600-yard games, a total offense that we're used to. So it's just been a different approach this year, and it's Tennessee. The longest play they had against Georgia was 17 yards, and that used to be an average play for Tennessee in the passing game. So it's just been a tick off. Now, credit Georgia. Georgia's defense was terrific. And they muscled up on Tennessee in the second half and made it really hard to gain a yard, let alone get big chunks. So Georgia's been pretty good for a long time, and they're really tough at Sanford Stadium, and they were tough Saturday night. So Georgia won the game, and they outplayed Tennessee, and they outmuscled Tennessee, and they did all those things. But it's just been every year. Every game. People keep waiting for one of those big 50-yard touchdown passes that we're used to with Hendon Hooker. And those things just haven't come. And I think, to be honest with you, there was probably too much pressure put on Nico when the season started, because everybody had, this 5-star quarterback coming in and making all this NIL money, and he's going to be great and all this kind of stuff. And then he played well against Iowa last year in the bowl game, and everybody just thought, well, we got our quarterback for the next 4 years, and he's going to win the Heisman, and he's going to do all this. And so before the season started, everybody thought, well, he's Peyton Manning and he's Schuler and T. Martin and all these guys rolled into one. He's going to be the greatest quarterback that's ever played at Tennessee. Well, it takes, I don't care who you are. When you're a freshman, there's still a big learning curve in the SEC. And these defensive coordinators study you all year around to trying to figure out the best way to stop you. And you've got to make adjustments. And I think Nico's having a little bit of a problem making those adjustments. He's still ultra talented. He's still, I think, going to be a really good quarterback. But it just takes time. And Tennessee fans right now aren't very patient. No college football fan is patient.
You're right. You're definitely right about that. Tennessee defensively, they've been tough all season. They have made teams, their opponents, work for everything they get. Just talk about this defense and how important they have been to the success that Tennessee's had so far.
Yeah, the front seven has just been outstanding, and they got pushed around a little bit against Georgia. But the front seven has been really good, and they've just have been. It's a veteran group. They've got a lot of fifth-year guys that have come back. They lost a lot when they lost Keenan Peely. He was kind of the leader on the defense at linebacker when he went out with that knee injury. That really had the defense take a step back. But James Pierce is good as edge rusher as there is in the league. And Jermond McCoy has been really a pleasant surprise at cornerback. He was a transfer player, but he's turned out to be one of the best cover corners in the SEC. Will Brooks, the former walk-on, leads the team in interceptions, and he's been really good at that safety slot. But, they haven't given up 20 points in a game until the Georgia game. And if you don't give up 20 points in the SEC, you got a pretty good chance of winning a bunch of football games. And that's kind of been the case with Tennessee. So didn't play that well against Georgia. Give Georgia credit. Carson Beck, I can't imagine him playing much better than he did against Tennessee. And Georgia has been famous for years for the, fake to the running back and throw to the tight end over the middle. And that's what they did time after time against Tennessee. And Tennessee never really adjusted very much.
UTEP this week, and then in the regular season on the road in Nashville at Vanderbilt, and I know UTEP's been a struggling team at Conference USA. Vanderbilt looks much different though than they have in years past when these two teams met. Just talk about kind of what you're looking for out of Tennessee in these final two games.
Well, UTEP is it's interesting. Scotty Walden is the coach at UTEP. He was the coach at Austin Peay last year, and Austin Peay gave Tennessee fits in the game they played last year. Tennessee won the game, and the score looked much better than what the actual game was, but Tennessee had to pull away late in the game to win that thing against Austin Peay. So Coach Walden, he's taken 11 players off that Austin Peay roster, wide receivers, a couple of offensive linemen, and he's brought them with him to UTEP. And so they really struggled early. They played a pretty tough schedule, and they lost some close games, but suddenly they've won 2 of their last 4, and they're playing better. They had an open week to get ready for Tennessee. So it'll be a test. And then Vanderbilt, you've got to know, of course, they've got a tough game Saturday at LSU, and we'll see how much that takes out of them. But they'll be geeked up when Tennessee comes to town. I mean, that's kind of their Super Bowl game, and they're shot to get in the championship, picture, just people talking about them. They're going to a bowl game, which is big for them, first time they've gone in a long time. But this will be their national championship game when they play Tennessee. And so Tennessee better get ready, because Vanderbilt, it's a very solid football team. They played everybody tough.
Yeah, they have, and that one should be interesting as well, but should be a fun finish to the season. Bob Kesling, he is the voice of the Tennessee Volunteers, and Bob, we really appreciate you taking a few minutes this morning, talking some Tennessee football with us. We'll do it again soon, but I really appreciate you doing this with us today.
That's absolutely perfect. Anyway, call me anytime. Good to talk to you.
Thank you. That is Bob Kesling, the voice of the Vols. We are Southeastern 16, and we'll be back with more football, basketball, and baseball content. It's all presented to you by BetOnline.